while speaking of God, the first question that arises is, how did the concept of God ever arrive at all in this world? The Rishis gave the answer saying that in the atmosphere there were sounds floating eternally. Some Rishis acted as radio receivers. Those sounds were not lost in the akhanda, in the atmosphere, because in the stratospheric abstraction, nothing can escape from the earth. Only thing, the sounds will become feeble and feebler. But generally some saints had the capacity to act as radio receivers. And the sounds that they got through the ear, they called as Shruti, representing heard by the ear. And that way, all the Vedas came into being. They were a sort of jumble at the beginning. Then one great man by name Veda Vyasa arranged them in a particular order, categorized them into 4 compartments: Rig, Yajus, Sama and Atharva. The Rig Veda is the oldest and the largest, has a number of mantras which are useful both for sacrifices and for other purposes. The Rigvedic mantras were translated or transmuted into aphorisms, sentences and principles for the conduct of yajnas, giving the directives and other details about how the yajna should be performed. How the gods for the yajna should be summoned was decided by the music in the Vedas, which formed a separate category by itself, namely the Sama Veda. And last of all came a Veda, which is called Atharva Veda. There is a wrong impression that Atharva Veda contains really bad spells for ruining people, hurting people, altering the course of nature to the detriment of crops. It's not like that. There are 2 aspects in it, the beneficent and the malignant. The malignant was practiced by some Brahmins at the end of the Vedic period. They were ostracized and they were driven away from Aryavarta. Some of them went eastward. They became the headhunters, the Nagas. And the others went westward to Egypt and the modern Arab country. They had a particular intonation which later degenerated into a certain text which became the root of the revelations for Muhammad the Prophet. But those people who stayed behind were able to use the Atharva mantras for protecting the crops from insects, for inviting rain, for stopping cyclones, and for altering the climate for the better as and when needed. They did not meddle with nature. So because they had been given the first instruction, the entire world being God's property, you can only try to enjoy it with such adjustments that were needed by you without altering its character. The Rig Veda began proclaiming first, man cannot live without food, and food, annasya chuditam patram. Food belongs only to the hungry, and it should be the duty of the society to produce as much food as possible for its needs and for its storage, and it should not also annamna parichakshita, it should not also waste food. The Vedas also try to establish a relationship between the earth and the heavens through the performance of sacrifices. The sacrificial fire emits smoke. That smoke teases the clouds to pour rain on the earth. And the teasing is done by particular sound syllables, which are the means for conveying the request of the earth to the heaven above. And that request is couched in a particular tonal tonal method, which is called swara. And in Sanskrit, since the same word may have more than one meaning, they were particular that the meanings can be differentiated by the swara attached to it. And they constructed the Vedic altar consisting of 3 altars. An important point is one was circular, the other was round, the third was a square. And all the 3 must be of equal length. The first problem in geometry solved by them easily. And they had different types of altars for different types of sacrifices. And for each altar, there will be a particular cornerstone. Only by putting it in a particular place, the form of the altar, whether as a tortoise or as a nakra, that is crocodile, it may be in many forms. That form will be completed. In putting that form, the fire that is inside gets an aggravation of its heat and produces greater smoke and flame than it would be otherwise possible. At the same time, they used for the fire twigs of particular character which had medicinal properties. The entire area where the smoke spread was disinfected and diseases were cured easily by that method. Every household was asked to perform a small yajna called Agnihotra, which requires only 10 minutes per doing, but requires special materials which are not easily available. They are available, but not easily available. If you use them, the fire, the smoke that is generated, spreading into the environment, prevents a disaster. In Bhopal tragedy, there were some houses that escaped the tragedy because they were having this Agnihotra fire in them and they performed it daily. After that was particularly popularized, everybody wanted to do that Agnihotra, but not without the proper material. And so they began saying, the Vedas have lied. It is not Vedas that have lied, but you who have miscarried the instructions. Geometrical patterns as well as patterns for the layout of towns is also indicated. And that layout has a certain relationship with, in terms of proportionality, with the 3 altars that are constructed for every yajna. So the geometry was not limited to the performance of sacrifices, but to the layout of a village, layout of a production area, and also for building temples. And in all these, the emphasis was on accuracy of geometrical calculations. We don't know how they did it. They didn't have the modern instruments that we have. But with whatever they had, they were able to trace the course of the planets and decide upon the day when it will be propitious for teasing the clouds through the mantras. That's how astronomy came into being, which later got translated into astrology. Astronomy was an exact science even in the Vedic period. And Vedic mathematics has its own aphorisms, by following which multiplication of complex figures can be done in a minute by just arrangement of some numbers in the given problem. And the Shankaracharya of Puri, the earlier Shankaracharya, has published a book on Vedic mathematics, which became a rage in the United States and other places very recently. Even he restricted himself to the theory of numbers. But the Vedas go beyond the theory of numbers and try to analyze some problems in algebra and trigonometry, which even modern minds will not find it easy to understand. Bhaskara Raya, who authored a textbook called Leelavati, is a textbook on trigonometry. He drew the knowledge only from the Vedas. The Vedas were source of all the knowledge that is possible to abide at a period. And at the same time, they were entrusted to persons who were supposed to be competent to handle it. So the 4 Vedas were given to 4 disciples of Vyasa. Each one chose a disciple himself. Thus, there are hundreds of disciples for each of the Vedas, and that way the Vedas got further classified into many shakas. Now, we have only very few shakas or branches as the original, but even with this, we have not lost. The chapter is on Sanatana Dharma. Hinduism has no name. One reason is at that time there was no other religion, so there is no necessity to label it. Secondly, Hinduism is not religion in the sense in which the term is understood. Hinduism teaches you a way of life, and a way of life cannot not be accepted as a religion as such. That's why they did not call it by any name. And that way of life was a way practiced from very ancient times. Sanatana means ancient. The code of conduct laid down from ancient times is Sanatana Dharma. And Sanatana Dharma has two branches. One, the do's, the other, the don'ts. The do's relate to the duties of a householder from birth to death, the religious duties, and also his material duties. The second don'ts relate to the relationship that should exist between the individual and society, and the way in which the society should be organized. Those that the individual and society would be mutually complementary. These suktas went by the name of so many rishis, and out of the total of 1,720 treatises on this in the Vedas, we now have only 30. The rest have been lost over time. What remains even then is sufficient for management. So, for example, the Vedas say you must get up in the month of Margazhi at dawn, before dawn, and then try to sing the glory of the Lord going around the temple in your place. Why is it said like that? In that month of Margazhi, between 15th December and 14th January, the ultraviolet and infrared rays are in proper balance in the atmosphere at that particular point of time. If you take a walk at that area at that time, you benefit by it. You will not be able to walk walk for its sake. So they ask you to sing bhajans. You will not sing bhajan unless the temple gives you a prasada. So they give you some prasada, which is prepared specially for that particular purpose in the morning in the temples. Then, as far as the decoration, the idols are concerned, the Vedas had no temples, but the Vedas speak of deities being bedecked by certain ornaments, and it says these gems are not for God but for man. Their radiation will help you cure yourself of certain diseases. A carat, that is 250 carats of emerald, can even cure cancer if the body is in a particular area is exposed to it for a period of 48 days. Buying that amount of carat is really difficult, and also holding it for a certain period is not easy. And therefore what they did was decorate the Utsava idol, the processional idol, with those gems. You go and stand before it, you get the radiation. All the gems are arranged in a particular. If you go into a temple and look at the ornaments, the gems in it will be arranged in a particular order, not like a Navagraha. No. That order is a balance between the cross effects of each gem on the body. So, one medicine should not be antagonistic to another medicine. There must be a reconciliation. That reconciliation is done on the basis of a code given in the Rig Veda, and which has been specifically described and elaborated upon in Garuda Purana, in the Achara Kanda, where there is mention about Mani, Mantra and Aushadha. You can get what is the gemology is there, Mantra, incantation of spells, Aushadha, that is medicine. All this that is taken directly from the Vedic text. But only difficulty there is, some of the herbs that are mentioned here have changed their names. Only very experienced people are able to find, by testing the quality, that this is the herb that is mentioned in the Puranas and in the Vedas. And then the Vedas also believed in physical exercise. but of a charming kind. They distinguish between Rupa Jivins and Arupa Jivins. Rupa Jivins are those who benefit by their personal beauty, but that beauty is exhibited through dance. Arupa Jivins are those who do acrobatics and physical exercises. Each has a purpose in preserving the health of the body, but at the same time providing entertainment and preserving the art of dance. The first sound that emanated was Omkara. When Lord Nataraja danced, came all the Saptaswaras, and from that Bharata created the Natya Shastra. The musicologists developed the music, various forms of music. And the Vedas say that there are some particular swaras which will destroy the musical instrument if played on it. It. But then I heard from a speech by Yehudi Menuhin that when a particular note was played on the violin cracked. Likewise, you see, the Vedas say Agastya drank the waters of the ocean. You will immediately say, is it possible? How can anybody drink the waters of the ocean? The reference of that is the constellation of Agastya in the zodiac Scorpio. When that constellation nears the earth, it dries up the ocean a little. That is symbolically represented by this. So astronomical details are provided through legends like this. Then there is a particular indication that if you mix oil with water and drink it, it will give some immediate relief. It will give some immediate relief to you, but at the same time, it will slowly destroy your intestines, and ultimately you will die of loss of intestines. Now you will not even develop any illness. One day you will not be able to have any motions, no absorption of food, because the intestines are not there. So it gives some clues also for individuals. Na taile napi, na udake napi, na mishre napi, jivati. That's Veda. Neither by taila nor by water a person can live. People immediately say, without oil in those days they had only oil lamps. So without oil they could not live. Without water nobody can live, and therefore they said oil and without that you can't live. But the annotation is given in Garuda Purana, where it is said, the mixture of these two things destroys the abdominal organ and you cease to live all of a sudden. Then it speaks also, the Veda speaks of different kinds of winds. They called by the collective name Vayu, but there are different kinds of wind associated. Of course, that association is clear only in this year, in this part. Spring, summer, autumn, winter. At that time they were living probably in the northern hemisphere near the pole, and so they could speak of spring, summer, autumn and winter. So for Vasantagala, the spring season, the breeze that comes has to be enjoyed by sleeping in the open. In summer season, you should sleep when the wind blows into the room and not on the terrace or any other place. In winter season, you should escape the wind. In the autumn, you must try to take a bath and stand in the open for a period of 24 minutes, one night. Then the body will get replenished as if it had taken a tonic. All these four breezes have their own individual names. These four breezes are intended in the Vedas as special blessings for humanity. And those who followed the discipline mentioned by this Vayu Prashna, they are supposed to have lived for nearly 180 to 200 years in living memory. But you have to cultivate that habit. But I don't know whether you can cultivate in India, where there are only 3 seasons, hot, hotter and hottest. Or you must try to migrate to Canada and send Chandru and his troop to South India. Then there is a part in the Vedas where it is called architecture. That architecture is based upon not only a linear principle, but on the basis of solid geometry. They solve many problems in solid geometry in your BA course in mathematics or MA course in mathematics. But the problems solved by these people in the Vedas are still tantalizing for modern mathematicians. Ramanujan's great genius relating to numbers was because he intuitively had a knowledge of the Akshara Shastra, that is number Shastra, Akshara Shastra. That Akshara Shastra will give you a clue at how a spherical ball which was hung in the middle of a room can become the source of attraction of all the evil breezes and influences and keep the house free eternally from any disease or any physical inconvenience. That sphere, the spherical ball, should be made of cast iron. That cast iron ball, if I in a particular place, will attract. And when the religion became religiosity, the Brahmin wrote in the Smritis, the ball will not act unless been sanctified by a Brahmin with a particular homa and with a particular recitation of mantras. That is unnecessary. Then you are going into a place where you have lost your almanac. You don't have the almanac with you. You want to know what is the star of the day, what is the tithi of the day, and other Panchanga details. The Vedas have a clue to that. It is part of what is called the Ashirvada mantra. Samjnanam, Vijnanam, Prajnanam, Janad Abijanat, Sankalpamanam, Upakalpamanam, Upakriptam. It goes on like that. In this, every word has 3 letters. First letter, middle letter, and third letter. Every letter has a mathematical numerical count. It has 3, 5, 7. So, each has a particular arrangement. In one case, you have to add them. In another case, you have to deduct them. There is a particular relationship established. Suppose, for example, you want to find out what is the tithi for today. The only detail available to you is, today is a Wednesday. This is the afternoon of a Wednesday, in the closing week of Margazhi Masam. Samjnanam, Vijnanam, Prajnanam, Janat, Abhijanat, Sankalpamanam, Upakalpamanam, Upakriptam, Tejo, Vasya, Tejo, Va is the letter for it. Te is 2, E is 1, Ja is 10. Add these 3, 13. Today it must be 13. Take the good almanac to the 13th of this month. Then you will ask, what is the star of this month today? Janat, Abhijanat. Janat total will come to 27. Abhijanat, you deduct 5. You come to Rohini Nakshatra. Today it will be Rohini star, Trayodhishati. That way they gave a formula. And they wanted people to remember this formula. It's only a formula like A plus B into A minus B is equal to A squared minus 2AB plus B squared. That's the formula. It's like that, it's a formula. But when people have to take an interest in it, and so people say, the police will say, you are going to give the Ashirvada mantra, everybody silent, should be listening to it because God will be pouring blessings from above on hearing this mantra. After all, they are repeating something like A plus B into A minus B is a 2x minus B squared. You give the mathematical formula. The same result will come, but You will go on repeating it in a particular way. You remember one day you will ask me, why am I repeating it? Then you analyze, and then it's only intended to make a calculation. Calculation of tithis and nakshatras of a particular day when you don't have the almanac, when the sun is not to be seen and the stars are also not to be seen. So that is the one way. Then in a particular work which derives most of its strength from the Vedas, Prapanchasara, a description is given of a part of the Yajurveda where a particular question has been asked by a disciple of a guru, and the guru's answer is given. The question put by the disciple was, why does not this world exist permanently? The answer given is, take the star today and take the star tomorrow, find out their numerical value, you multiply it by 10,520, you will arrive at a figure. When that cycle is repeated 250 times, the world will come to an end. It will be actually equal to the geological age of the earth. There is another method by which they made us remember the geological age. You do a sankalpa saying, Vaivasana Manantare, Ashtavisame, Kalige, you do a sankalpa. The time was calculated in terms of yugas. That is, Krita, Treta, Dwapara and Kali Yuga. Krita Yuga has 4,32,000 years. Treta Yuga is into 2. Dwapara Yuga is into 3. Kali Yuga into 4. We are in the 5,100th year of Kali Yuga. These 4 yugas taken together is one group. That is Chaturyuga. These 4 yugas taken in one group, if they go 71, take 71 rounds, they make a manvantara. And that manvantara, first manvantara is Swayambhu Manu. More of it follows. The Vedas calculate time in terms of yugas. It is called yuga mana. Mana is measured by the yugas. The 4 yugas, Krita, Treta, Dwapara and Kali Yuga, have respectively 4,32,000 years into 2, into 3, into 4. These whole 4 yugas make one Chaturyuga. If 71 times this cycle goes, it is equal to one manvantara. 14 such manvantaras constitute the day of the Creator, followed by another 14 manvantaras equal to the night. In the night there will be no creation. Then there will be 14 manus, in this, each having 71 cycles of these yugas. So, and with yugas and this combination period, it will make 1,000 yugas. That is one day of Brahma. And multiplied by 100 days is his lifetime. The present Brahma has completed 50 years of age and has commenced 51st year. And it is the first paksha, first muhurta of his life after completing 51 years. So if you calculate the total of all these yugas and the life of the Brahma, you arrive at the total age of the earth. The geological age and this age are exactly coincidental. And how they discovered it, we don't know. The Vedas are fixed that way. And then there will also be a peculiarity in the characteristics of nature and human beings according to yuga. That is because the environmental influence will be predominantly sattvic, godly, in one yuga and tamasic, demonic in another yuga. In between there will be variations. And in each of us, each human body, during its lifetime, you have experiences of these 4 yugas. Sometimes it may be within a same day in the life of a person. In the same day, one day you will be very generous, magnanimous and all that, exuding sattvic qualities. Then you will be just selfish, attending to only to a certain type of job, a certain type of people. Then it is rajasa quality. Then you try to overwhelm another person or hurt another person, it is tamasic. All these qualities also operate inside us in varying proportions. As we evolve from ordinary animal existence into a rational human being, we try to suppress the demonic qualities and try to develop first the worldly qualities and then the sattvic qualities of renunciation. God does not, Vedas does not say that you should renounce the world. You must treat life as a great suffering and try to be free from it as early as possible. The Vedas don't say like that. Shaishave abhyastya vidyana, yavane vishayeshana, vardhakye munivrittena, yogadante tandrityam, says Kalidasa in Raghuvamsha. That is, in the childhood, you have to study. In manhood, you have to enjoy pleasures. Then, vardhakye munivrittena, when you get old, try to be ascetic, abstemious, and ultimately you take sannyas. And the Vedas also say, sannyas is not intended for everybody. Because if everybody becomes sannyasi, there will be nobody to look after the bachelors and the married people, everybody. So, sannyasa can be chosen only when you don't have the quality of detachment, even when living in company with your wife and children. You can honor your commitments, but do not go to pieces over them. You must try to live the life of an ascetic even inside the house. It's not necessary to go to a forest. Only when you feel that your temperament is such that you will be influenced by others, if you are in the house, you can seek solitude. And even when seeking solitude, you should try to make sure whether you will remain there permanently or return, because it's a great sin to return from sannyasa to grihastha. The story of Jnanadeva must have been told to you. His father was a sannyasi, went to Banaras after his children were born. There he met some guru, he made him a sannyasi. The children were suffering and so he was asked to come back. When he came back, the world, his neighbors would not allow him to live with the family because he has become a chandala by becoming a grihastha sannyasi. So the boys were deserted. They went along, and Jnanadeva, being the mystic par excellence, he was able to enlighten other people, and that problem was solved. But I mention this only because it is considered to be a great sin. We should not. But even in those days, there were people who used to revert from sannyasa to grihastha. Bhartrihari became sannyasi 7 times and became a grihastha 7 times. But try as far as possible to concentrate upon your capabilities, your proclivities, your limitations and handicaps, and try to learn as much as you can in your childhood, then work as much as you can in your youth, then try to turn out inwardly towards God during your old age, and continuing like this, cast off this body as the snake casts off his slough, his skin. So that's also indicated. It doesn't never says, don't you must be a sannyasi. Because I have to say this because all Hindu philosophy begins with the assertion, you should know that you are a dukkhi, one who is also destined to suffer. So you can escape from this dukkha only through bliss. And that bliss can be had only by renunciation. That is intended for people who have already honored their commitments and have tired of life and want a release from it. So that's Varnashrama. Then in the Vedas there is mention of Brahma, Kshatriya, Vaishya and Shudra, the 4 castes. That has created a great controversy. So, some people have begun saying the Vedas ennobled the Brahmin and condemned the Sudra to the lowest rung of society. If you look at it carefully, you will understand the inner meaning of the Vedic injunction. God is pleased by those who serve the society. He is more pleased with them than with the bhaktas who seek the road salvation. And for service, it requires a lot of legwork. And that legwork means the task of the Sudra. And the Sattva Sudra is placed in God's feet. You and I, everybody worships only the Sudra when you bend to them. When you offer flowers to God, you don't throw it at his face because Brahmin came from there, or on his shoulder because Kshatriya came from there, or on the thighs because the Vaishya was from there. You place the flowers only at his feet. And when somebody dies, you write in your obituary, he attained to the feet of the Lord. You don't say don't attain to the face of the Lord. He has been given the most sublime position in society, and everybody should bend to him. When anybody bends to the Lord, he bends not to the Lord, but the Sudra inside him. Likewise, the Vedas do not say, which is explained by Krishna very well, Vedas do not say one caste is superior to the other. Each has an allotted duty. Swadharma Vaktitvam. You have to be closely attached to what is suited to your aptitude on the basis of your tradition and birth. The later classification came because the Brahmin wanted to have place of importance for himself, and he could by spells control so many people. That way, a hereditary superiority or supremacy came to him. The Vedas never mentioned that. Guna, the Lord says, Chaturvarnyam maya srishtam guna karma vibhagasha. Only according to his disposition, proclivity, and the type of work that he has been doing ancestrally. It's that way the division has come. And then, in the Puranic period and in the epic period, this particular truth has been suppressed. There is mention in the Ramayana that in Rama's kingdom, one day a child died. In those days, no child would die during the lifetime of his father, unless the king had committed a great sin. So when the child died, the Brahmin took the child to the royal court. The king has done some wrong, and therefore my child had died. So Rama wanted to find out what. Vashta said, go about, look about the country, see whether anybody has committed a mistake, and you had not punished him. So he went round, and then he went to a forest. There he saw a Shudra hanging downwards from this tree, doing tapas. He asked him, what are you doing? I am doing a penance. Who are you? I am a Shudra. How can a Shudra do a penance like that? He cut off his head. Immediately this child came back alive. That's a corruption that came into being long after the Vedic period. The Puranas have two halves. They give the truth as given in the Vedas and distort the truth according to the convenience of the Brahmin. That's why we have got a non-Brahmin movement in India. Otherwise it would not have come. Whether in north or south, the same animosity is because of the misreading of the Vedas. Take even a very simple thing. If a Brahmin commits adultery, the sin is washed off by doing a prayer before the fire. If a non-Brahmin commits adultery with a Brahmin girl, he should be wound in straw, ghee must be poured, and he must be burned to death. This is said like that. And then even great Shankara says, okay, not to Kshatriya Deha. Only the Brahmin is entitled to do these things, not the Kshatriyas and the other castes. These all came into being only later. And you can't blame them because everybody is a creature of his era. He cannot go against the laws and rules of that era. That way, a great thing has been achieved by the Arya Samaj movement. They said, we go to the Vedas and take the Vedas as the authority and not the interpretations through the Brahmanas or through the Upanishads or through the Puranas. Go to the Vedas, Arya Samaj says. But she was unpopular because the Arya Samaj says, temple is not mentioned in the Vedas, So don't go to temples. That only appeal is for current contemporary age, when every street will have a temple. So he became unpopular. But that's the correct interpretation of the Vedas. And likewise, even the question of sacrifices. The Vedas mention the sacrifice of many animals. They are killed mercilessly in a tortuous manner. And the sutra says, yajna himsyad. You can kill like this for the purpose of yajna. Aurobindo has done a great service in his book on the Vedas, explaining the esoteric significance of killing in yajna. The name, the symbol, what these names of animals symbolize. But that particular reading is not popular because it is against orthodoxy. But those who believe in it will go to Arya Samaj and they find corroboration. Not that I am talking against yajna, but I am talking about. So the Madhvas have a peculiar method. Only if you kill an animal, it's a horrible thing. We make models of animals in flour and then we do sacrifice. Either you do it originally or you do abandon it. There's no halfway house here. But somehow that's why Nama Sankirtanam Yasya Sarupapa Pranashanam Pranamo Dukkashamanaha Tamnamami Harim Param. Therefore the Bhagavad Purana says there's no greater yajna than Nama yajna. No greater Kirtanam than Nama Kirtanam. Going to the Lord, if you indulge in Kirtana and Nama Parayana, it will suffice for you to get to the higher heavens. And then even the Vedas have a limitation, which is pointed out by Lord Krishna. In the Vedas, all the sacrifices are mentioned, and the result of those sacrifices is you will go to Swargalokam. And then when the punyam is exhausted, you come back, you born again with that same proclivity, do yajnas and other things, go. So it is going to be up and down, you will be going like this endlessly. So he said, those who go to Surgati, who go to Surgaloka, they also return like this. Three vidyas, somapa, puta papaha, Ijnanishta, Patyantu, Puntva to Bhogan to Sukhiyan, they come back to the self. So don't be like them. Don't indulge in this up and down business. You escape this Treta Agni and go to the worship of the Lord in the meditational fashion, which is sculpted in temples as the former yogis and written in the Upanishadic text. Tri vidya somapa puta papaha yajnirishta srigatim pratyante te punya rasati pasvirendra lokan ashrina divyan deva bhogan tetvam mukta srigalokam visaram shine punya matyalokam vishanti evam tri dharma anupravanna gatagatam kamakama labante Trigunya Vishaya Veda Nistrigunya Bhavajyada Nirdvando Nityasatvastu Duryoga Kshematam. Try to be free from this entanglement. No Shastri will accept this. But that's what Krishna said. And the only limited pleasure to get in Swarga is given in the Vedas. That's why there's the last portion of the Vedas is a negation of all these things. It is intended for those people who really understand the Vedas and who go after ultimate liberation through the path of ahimsa and atma samyamanam, self-control. Then the Vedas have spoken about the swaras in music. The order in which these swaras have to be arranged, and the change or permutation of combinations of these swaras to a certain limit. The Vedas say, now we have got Janya Janaka Ragas. In the Vedas, there are no Vakragas, there are no Vakram at all. Because it doesn't say, it certainly says, certain combinations are harmful for the throat and for the hearer, for the audience. So that's why in Tamil Nadu, they will always say, I am interested in Marga Samhita, not in Deshi, which is a mixture. So there also there is a restriction that is given in the common interest of people. Only in the sacrificial part, there are many things that are not acceptable. They are properly interpreted only by Aurobindo, and they are not popular. Somebody must popularize it. Only then the knowledge of the Vedas as far as yajna is concerned will be complete. And then the Vedas also speak about adhikaris. Who is entitled to do what? That if we understand it in a very crude fashion, those who do not know, have not studied medicine, should not practice medicine. It's not like that. Any knowledge that you want to preach or adopt must be suited to your aptitude. I may have great inclination for sex. I should not aspire for sannyasa. I might have great inclination for food. I should not be a vanaprastha. So it specifically indicates the aptitude of an individual as the deciding factor, and his physical capabilities or limitations as the deciding factor, second deciding factor for doing anything on his own, on the basis of the literature available in the Vedas and the Puranas. The Puranas are more lenient. They say, they give the story of Vishwamitra, who was a Kshatriya, who became a Brahmin. But the Vedas say, you are born to a particular station in life, be satisfied with it. In that also you can attain moksha. Don't have to be, unlike some sects you say, you have to do Surya Upasana for 100 janmas, then Shiva Upasana for 100 janmas, then be born as Sri Vaishnava. Only then you can get mukti. It's not, Vedas never say like that. In any station in life, when your mind, after answering all commitments, is free from attachment, you are entitled to work towards your salvation, not otherwise. One who does not discharge his duties to his family and then to himself will always be born again and again until he completes his responsibilities in the way that has been laid down by Sanatana Dharma. And the Vedas have a particular set of verses defining Sanatana Dharma, which has been summarized by Manu in one small sloka. Yenasya pitaro yataha, yena yatah pitamahaha, tena yayat satam margam, tena gachanna rishyati. Follow the path, spiritual path, followed by your ancestors, your father, your grandfather, great-grandfather. There will be no risk in it. If you want to go by a different path, there may be serious risk in it. That's one thing. And then also the Vedas also answer another question. I am not a believer. Does it mean that I will be permanently damned? If you ask the Shastris, they will say, those who do not believe Vedas or do not believe in God, they will be permanently damned. But the Vedas don't say like that. That has been also mentioned by the Dharma Shastra. Drishtiputam neset padam, vastraputam pibet jalam, satyaputam vadet vacham, manahputam samacharet. When you take a walk, look at the ground so that you don't try to tread upon any living being and some other things. Drishtiputam, the eye must clear the path for you. Neset padam, vastraputam pibet jalam. When you drink water, filter it with a cloth. Satyaputam vadet vacham. When you speak, filter your speech with truth. Manahputam samacharet. When you indulge in any action, then filter that action by your conscience, permission of conscience. First three are easy. The last one is very difficult. You'll always have to act against your conscience on a number of occasions. And by acting like that a number of times, you kill your conscience permanently, and then you don't know what is right and what is wrong. The Veda mentions that also. Never suppress your conscience. Manaputam dattajet kadachayati, says the Yajurveda mantra. That which is not purified by the mind, don't do it, because it ultimately leads to damnation. So, in certain cases, the Vedas, interpreted as smritis by rishis, follow truthfully what is said by the Vedas. And because they were written long after Vedic times, when Brahmin hegemony came into being, there are a lot of distortions. When you read it, you will be able to find what is distortion and what is not. And in that sense, a glossary is given, even in the Vedas, how a distortion could ever arise to the Vedic text. How could it be distorted? It mentions a list of 24 items where transposition of some of the words of the Veda can give the opposite meaning. And Aurobindo took one of that, himsa tejet, that is avoid himsa. Himsa tejet they omitted, yajna himsa they put it. Himsa was made himsyat. Tejet only it, that it has become himsa, yajna himsyat. So yeah, 24 items are given. On the basis of that, some of the practices that are now going on in the country, in the Orthodox households, and by the help of the dictionaries, they have no sanction in the Vedas. You mention it, you will be an outcast. But that's the truth. Then, the question whether ladies can do Gayatri Japa, ladies can read the Vedas, recite the Vedas. This doubt arose because there is a verse in Mahabharata, Stri Shudra Dvijabandhunam Triyena Shri Gochara. For ladies, for children born of mismarriage, and for Shudras, there is no entitlement to Sanskrit and the Vedas. Entitlement to Vedas. So for their sake, Vyasa wrote the Puranas and the epics, Mahabharata and Ramayana. They should not say that. But if you go into the Vedas, there is Vagamrani, Katyayani, Gargi, Maitreyi, and Apala, and a host of ladies who have been responsible for particular mantras in the Vedas. If they can be the teachers, cannot they be learners? In the Arya marriages, both the bride and bridegroom will sit together and perform the Agrikarya. It's not like the lady touching the shoulder of the groom and he performing everything. So that distortion is coming to being during the Puranic period. And Gayatri, they say, many people say, Gayatri should not be recited by the ladies. But what they will forget to say is, or deliberately forget to say is, Gayatri is the birthright of every living being. Even animals and insects repeat Gayatri. And there, you are not able to hear it. It was a merciful God that made us impervious to the sounds or speeches of these insects. Otherwise, we cannot live in this world. There will be only chatter all around. So, Gayatri is intended for every living being to clarify its intellect and entitle that being to the salvation, ultimate bliss, which is its birthright. There is no question of gender there. Gayatri is a mantra. Any mantra has a relationship only with the mind. The mind can be made impure only by bad thoughts. Mind cannot be improved by the sex. Sex does not enter into the question. So, Gayatri entitlement is entirely a question of prejudice on the part of the Orthodox Brahmin who says that only males could recite Gayatri. And even then they will say the non-Brahmin cannot say Gayatri. There is no such provision in the Vedic literature. Not even in the Brahmanas there is any mention. As far as possible, even the Brahmin literature follows the Vedas closely. Only the Smritis have destroyed the bona fides of the Vedas to suit the convenience of the Brahmins of the time.